Hey guys, how are you? Happy Friday, finally. I am here to chat with you guys today about my tracking system. Hopefully, something I say today will resonate with you and you can take away something that you can feel like you can apply to your business right away. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brooke. I have been a coach for almost 4.5 years, which just seems so crazy. I was a kindergarten teacher when I first started coaching. My last year teaching overlapped with my first year coaching. I was, really busy working full time, coaching part time, and then a couple months after I started coaching, I actually got pregnant with my first son. And so here I was, growing a human, but I hustled because I knew my big goal in life was to be able to stay home with my kids. And so I saw right away that Beachbody was my ticket to that freedom that I had always wanted. And so I hustled, and long story short, I ended up taking a 16-month leave of absence when he was born. I knew I was never going back to teaching, but I couldn't yet justify leaving altogether. So I took the rest of that school year and the whole next year. And then I hustled as a brand new mom. I had no idea what I was doing, but I, made it work, and I figured out ways to fill my pockets of time with Beachbody. And so at the end of that 16 months, I was able to finally justify not going back. Even if I had wanted to go back, it didn't really make sense with what we would pay for daycare and gas and the dog walker and all that fun stuff. So I've been home with my son since the day he was born, which is my dream come true. And now I am 37 and a half weeks pregnant with my second. And so if I get out of breath, that's why, because there's not a lot of room in here. But I'm happy that I have made it this far so I could bring this video to you before who knows what happens day to day. So here I am. If you guys have any questions when you're listening to this, definitely drop them in the comments below. If you haven't listened to Kelly's video yesterday, I got a lot of great nuggets out of it. Thanks, Kelly. Definitely make sure you go back and listen to hers. You'll notice hers was a live. I'm doing this recorded so that I can share my screen with you because I am talking to you about my tracking system. I know I'm a really visual person, and so for me, it just kind of made sense for me to be able to kind of show you so you can kind of look at it while I'm kind of walking you through it. I don't know, just made sense to me. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So everybody has their own tracking system, whatever works for you. I will say, if you have something that's working for you, don't just stop what you're doing and do what I do because I'm doing it, maybe take a piece or one or two pieces of things that I show you and implement that into your business. Don't feel like you have to reinvent the wheel. Or if you're really looking for a tracking system that would work well for you, because what you've tried before isn't working, maybe you do want to adapt my whole system here and see what works for you. This business is all about trial and error. One system doesn't work for everybody. I know some of the top coaches do really well with pen and paper. A lot of us use Streak. A lot of us use Asana. Use whatever works for you, but I challenge you, if you haven't found something that you love, that you feel really works for you, definitely try out different systems until you find one that works for you. I have kind of bopped around, and this is one that I had done a couple years ago, and then I left it to try Streak. Streak just didn't work for me. It wasn't my thing, and so I've come back to this, and this is just what kind of makes sense in my brain. So here we go. Let me share my screen. Okay, so I use part Asana and part this Excel sheet. So I'm just I want to make sure I'm saying this in a way that's not overcomplicating it. So I invite on Instagram and Facebook. I really appreciate that the Facebook inbox, the messenger inbox, will keep your messages in chronological order. Instagram doesn't do that, and it's really frustrating. So I honestly, I'm a lifetime 2-star diamond. I've seen a lot of success in this business, and I'm going to be honest with you. I rely on for right now. I rely on the Facebook inbox, like keeping my messages kind of in order. So I will invite on Facebook, and when I'm inviting on Facebook, I will just kind of leave it. Unless I am having like unless I've gotten to the point that we're having a conversation about a sale, like about changing their life, about the challenge pack. But until we get to that point, like if we're going back and forth with, you know, like asking them questions, seeing if I can get a better idea of how I can help them, what are their goals, you know, can they squeeze in a 30-minute workout, those sort of things. I'm just leaving it up to Facebook to keep all those things in chronological order. And it is on my daily tasks to go back in, my inbox from 3 days ago. I found that follow-ups for doing my follow-ups every 3 days is really helpful. I used to do 48 hours, and then I found that, I don't know if it's because of my niche, like my mom niche, if you're not, you know, if you don't rely on the internet or social media for your job, you're not necessarily always going to be checking your phone, especially as a mom, we're busy, life happens. So I found that 3 days kind of works. When I was doing 2 days, people were like, oh, sorry, I hadn't get a chance to check it yet, or sorry, life's been busy. But 3 days is kind of like my sweet spot. So let me see if I can. So today's Friday, obviously. So today on my to-do list would be to scroll back to Tuesday, and I would do all my Tuesday messages. And that's just kind of the way it is in terms of my tracking. Then if we've had a conversation, so, you know, the sale convo will be over here, and I put it over here just to kind of remind myself so nobody kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So like if there's a day that I can't do my Facebook follow-ups, like I want to make sure I'm checking in with these people like every day to make sure we're moving that along. I don't want them to lose interest if they are, you know, really interested in getting a challenge pack. If I've talked to somebody on Facebook and they are not interested right now, they have to wait for tax money to come back, they have to wait till after Christmas, after, you know, back to school was a big one, especially with moms, I will put them into my Asana. It's basically like this Excel doc is kind of for immediate follow-ups and Instagram, because the Instagram inbox doesn't keep them neat and organized like I like them. And I use Asana for long-term follow-ups. So my folders, I forget what they're called in Asana. For lack of a better word, I call them folders, are broken down into months. It's the easiest way to do it. I used to do like invites, re-invites, follow-ups, and it was just too crazy. So it's very simple, straightforward months. So if, you know, I was talking to somebody in July and they said, you know, I'm really interested, but, you know, I have to wait until the kids go back to school because we're going on vacation and we're never going to be home and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to put them in for September. This is for Instagram and Facebook people. So I just add them in. I assign them to myself. You have to assign them to somebody. And I put a due date. I usually do Fridays. Just like on Fridays, I tend to like to kind of clear my Asana, like get up to date on my Asana. And then I do this all the time. Like if I were to reach out to this Cascade girl and she said, actually, I know I told you September was a good time. I had to spend all this money sending the kids back to school. Let's chat next month. I would just come here and change her folder to October instead. And then you can even change the date. And then I would change the date to maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks from now. I like Asana. It's very simple and straightforward. I know that a lot of people prefer to use emails. I'm just not an email person. I did try email when I did Streak. It didn't work for me. It didn't work for, I felt like my niche didn't respond well to, you know, figuratively, and didn't respond well to email. I just didn't get the responses back that I was needing or hoping for. So staying in Messenger really helps me. Asana is free. I just like it a lot. It works for me. Like I said, I've tried different things, and so I've run with it. So that's pretty much my Facebook follow-up system or tracking system, following up tracking system. So follow up. If I'm having a conversation with them, I put them here just so I don't lose them in the shuffle, because sometimes there's been like 5 days have gone by, like if it's the weekend or if I don't have time to check in on my third day, and it's like, oh crap, like I should have messaged them about like sending them a link and I forgot all about them. Or if we get to the point that they need more time, I'll put them into Asana. So Asana is like long-term follow-ups for me. Instagram, on the other hand, like I said, like I'm sure you know, doesn't keep your messages in a nice, neat order like Facebook does, and that bothers the crap out of me. I'm so type A. And so what I do there is I use the flagged option a lot on Instagram. So like if you go to your inbox, and then there's those 3 lines to the right. I don't know if you can see over here. There's the 3 lines. There it comes up with inbox, unread, and flagged. So if I'm having a conversation with somebody and we're going back and forth about a challenge pack and their goals, like I said with Facebook, I will flag them because it's in my to-do list to go to my flags every day also. And I'll also put them over here in the sale convo just to make sure I'm checking in with them more consistently than the 3 days. The 3 days is good if you're kind of having a back and forth, but if someone's interested, I want to follow up with them more than every 3 days. With Instagram, I will, when people first follow me, my husband actually sends them, he's like my little virtual assistant, which is a whole nother topic that I'm happy to answer questions about if you're interested. My husband will, he will send the initial message to my new followers on Instagram. He also does this on Facebook, my new friend requests on Facebook, or people who accept. But with Facebook, I don't have to track it so much because it's, nice and neat. With Instagram, he'll send this scripted first message. I don't mind having him send the scripted first message because it is scripted, and I'll be very honest about that. Once they respond back, that's when I'll take over and I'll have this very genuine back and forth conversation with them. I don't expect my husband to pretend like he's a pregnant mom or a mom in general and to pretend that like that's just not authentic. And so he just does that initial message because it's not something I have to do. Melanie Mitro said once, like it's not something that needs the Brooke touch. So he does that. And then once they accept and we're having a conversation, I will put them in this first column. So you'll see I have 531 with a compliment message. I actually had gotten away from this for a while. And then we had a team call with Bailey. Shout out to Bailey, who's amazing, a couple weeks ago. And she had mentioned that she still does this. And I was like, you know what? I need to go back to that. So thanks, Bailey, for that reminder. So once he has messaged somebody, whether we're having a conversation or not, I'll put them into this folder, this column. And then 3 days later, I will, and I'll put the date for 3 days later. So like people he messages today, I'll put them here and I'll put the date of September 23rd. And so 3 days later, whether we've been having a conversation or not, I'll go into their page and show them some love. I'll do the 531, that's 5 likes, 3 genuine comments, not just like, oh, that's cool, but like, I love the other day I was like, I love your daughter's name. How did you come up with it? Because I'm thinking baby names right now, or like, this is such a beautiful picture. Where did you go on vacation? Something that is going to lend them to respond back so that you can kind of have that conversation, but also more so than likes. I mean, take into account your Instagram. Like if people like your pictures, that's great. But what's going to stand out the most is if people comment on your pictures, and then you kind of go back and forth. And then I'll usually send them a message too, like, and it might be something that kind of complements what I wrote on one of their pictures. Like, hey girl, happy Friday. Hope you have some fun weekend plans. I just noticed your daughter's name is Oakland or whatever it was. Like, I really love that. It's so original. Where did you come up with it? And so then we're going to it's more likely that she will respond back and we'll end up having that conversation, and we're really building that rapport. Some people will totally ghost you no matter how much love you show on their page, and that's okay. The people who respond back, who I'm having a conversation with, who are open to getting to know me, they then go over to my invite column there's no set time. It's usually 3-ish days. Maybe it's more like 5 if we're kind of having a back and forth. I don't push it. I put a date there, so I'll check back in with them, but it's not like set in stone. If we're still having a great conversation, I'm not just going to randomly, if it doesn't feel right, I tell my team, like, make sure it like feels genuine. You don't want to push it. I will send them an invite. Also, people I'll invite is people who are liking my posts and following my stories. So with new likes, I'll invite them if they're engaging with me, but I don't want to push it right away to invite them just because they liked my page. I want to wait until they kind of show some interest. So sometimes if they're not answering after this 531 and the compliment message, I'll kind of let them go. And then when I'm looking through my stories and my post likes, a few times a week, if I see their name pop up, I'll put them on my invite list. And my goal is to send 20 invites 5 times a week, usually Monday through Friday. And so that's where I get my invites is new likes who are actually corresponding with me, people who are liking my posts, and people who are watching my stories. And because my husband sends that initial message to everybody, even if they don't respond, and my husband sends that initial message, and I've done the compliment message with the 531, even if they don't respond, then if they're watching my story and they're liking my post, like they're taking the time to look at my stuff. So I don't feel like it's a total uncomfortable or cold invite because they are taking the time to engage on my page, even if they're not responding back. So that's where I get my invites mostly. New likes or friend requests, people watching my stories, both on Instagram and Facebook, and people who are liking my posts, both on Instagram and Facebook. And then if they don't, once I send them the invite, no matter what, I just put them right into the follow-up. So I'm always like, I'm usually like highlighting people as I invite them. And then after I have a whole bunch, after I have my 20, I'll just copy, cut, paste, and put the date, 9, so it would be 9/23. And so every day it's like on my to-do list to go in and knock out my Excel sheet. You can see based on the dates, I'm a little behind here, but doing the best I can. And then the flag option also helps too, to make sure it's kind of like an extra way to make sure I'm not letting anybody fall through the cracks. Because usually if they're on my Excel sheet, they're also, if we've gotten to the point that they need a follow-up, I'm going to flag them. And so they're on my Excel sheet to follow up with them, but they're also flagged, which is something I go through every day too. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's it. That's and then on Instagram too, if we've had a conversation and at the end they're like, you know what, the prices aren't right now. I have to wait for my tax return. I have to wait until after I, buy all our Christmas gifts and see what I have left over. They also go into my Asana long-term follow-up. So someone tells me I have to wait until after Christmas, they're going on my January list. If somebody says they have to wait until they get their tax money back, they're going on my April list. If it's not something like that, like I know, like if they say, oh, I have to wait until after my wedding, I'll try to, ask a couple questions like, oh, that's so exciting. Ask a couple questions about the wedding and then say, oh, so when is the wedding? When is the big day? And then I'll put them into my Asana for like the month after their wedding, like once things settle down or something. And you can even write a note in here, like wedding in November. So when you follow back up with her, you can say, hey girl, congratulations on the wedding. How was it? And you'll go to her page, like a couple photos, and then maybe like the next day or two, invite her and say, hey, I know last time we chatted, you had wanted to wait until after your wedding. Are things settled down enough that you're ready to look into this again, type of thing. So And so, yeah, and so every, week or so, I try to go into my Asana and clear it. You can sort up here. So like September, you can sort by due date. So you can see I typically do Fridays. So like today I'd go in and check in with all of these people. So essentially from my Asana, they're what I call like re-invites. I'm like re-inviting them. If they've made it into my Asana, it's because I've already invited them and they need like a long-term follow-up long-term follow-up / re-invite, whatever you want to call it. I tend to call it a re-invite. So this invite will look a little bit different, sound a little bit different than an initial invite, like, hey, Ashlyn, how are you? Happy Friday. I know we've chatted about my health and fitness fit clubs before, whatever you want to call them. But I know it wasn't a good time for you. My September club is in open enrollment. Is now a better time for you to snag a spot or something. Just make it sound like you, make it sound authentic. Whereas my initial one would be like, hey girl, I see you. Now you always try to use their name if I can. I see you watching my stories and showing my posts some love. I really appreciate it. Not sure if this is something you'd be into or not, but I wanted to see if you'd be interested in snagging a spot in my September virtual fit club or something. Because if they're watching your stuff, they clearly have an idea, and you're posting consistently, and they're going to have a good idea of what it is that you do and what you're involved in. So it shouldn't be a huge surprise when you go to invite them. So that's my system. Again, don't stop what you're doing and do what I do if what you're doing is working for you. But hopefully my goal with this is that you can have some small takeaway, at least, that you can start implementing into your business. Maybe you will find that Asana really works for you. I have a lot of girls on my team who use Asana. Maybe this will help you keep your long-term people organized. Because I know for me, it's like, how on earth would I remember that, this Kelsey girl, she said money is tight. I'm never going to remember in 6 weeks, especially when I'm having a baby, that Kelsey said money is tight and I should follow back up with her in 2 months. Like, I'm never going to remember that. For me, pen and paper that just doesn't work for me. I like the way this keeps it organized by month. So every month I just know it's easy to organize it, and then it's easy to implement it, to use it, because you just go to the month and you go to the date and you knock it off. It works for me. Hopefully this made sense to you. You know how sometimes things make sense to you, but it's hard to explain to somebody else. So if you have literally any question, please, please, please drop it in the comments below. I am more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. All right. Happy Friday. This has gone on way too long. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for taking the time to listen. I appreciate it. Bye, guys.